Welcome everybody to another Thursday night class on the parsha of the week. This week's parsha is Parshas Korach, and as always, we'll see it together with the insights of the Korach HaKadosh. And here are some of the fascinating thoughts that the Korach says about this parsha and some of the lessons that we can learn for ourselves. So, as always, I'll share the screen so you can see the psukim, and then we will take a look at the Korach together. So, it says the pasuk. This week's parsha, with the name Parshas Korach, is because of the events that revolve around Korach, Va'adaso Korach, and his assembly. Now we know that Korach challenged the leadership of Moshe and the appointment of Aharon as Kohen Gadol, and they tried to influence Moshe to say that Moshe was being, there was nepotism involved in his choices, and therefore he went ahead and rabble-roused and created a whole challenge against Moshe Rabbeinu. Now Hashem told Moshe that they should bring the Ketores, and the Ketores would be the thing that would decide who the true Kohen Gadol was. And we know that Korach va'adaso, they got swallowed up by the ground. The ground, Patzasa ha'aretz es piha, it cracked open its mouth, and it swallowed up Korach into the ground, and along with some of the people that followed him, and as well as all of his belongings. And from there, we learn there are many thoughts that we are taught. From here, we learn how severe it is to be involved in arguments and so on. And therefore, Korach is the eternal model of what we should not do when it comes to leadership. Right? We should not just challenge the leadership for no reason, and therefore we should follow and listen to the leaders that we are given and understand that they are being appointed by Hashem. So that is the general overview of the parsha. The parsha then at the end tells us that Hashem told Moshe to take everybody's staff and take those sticks and put them in the Ohel Moed, and then they will sprout and they will grow almonds. And those almonds, the one that sprouts, the stick that sprouts, that will be the sign that he's the chosen one. So now, the couple of questions that the main question that we really have to address when it comes to this event with Korach really is first and foremost is, what in the world was Korach thinking? What was Korach thinking? Korach came out of Egypt just like everybody else, and everybody saw that Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who led the Jewish nation out. Everybody saw that Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who went up to Har Sinai and he received the Torah, and it was very, very clear that Moshe Rabbeinu was a messenger of Hashem. So why would Korach suggest that Moshe Rabbeinu was playing games and playing favorites? What in the world was Korach really thinking? That's the question that we have to address. Fundamentally, what exactly was Korach trying to achieve? And more so, why did he even think that anybody would go ahead and agree with him? Right? Imagine if people would just gang up on let's say in a school, all the teacher would gang up on the principal. That's ridiculous. Why would we do that? He's been appointed. He's been hired by the board. Now the board's not going to stand for people that that are just trying to cause trouble. So Korach is starting up with Moshe Rabbeinu, but it's very clear Moshe Rabbeinu has already earned his reputation, Vayaminu v'Hashem uve Moshe avdo, that they trust Moshe Rabbeinu. They know he is the lead. He is appointed by Hashem. Therefore, why would suddenly Korach go ahead and challenge and think that he would be able to fight against Moshe? So that's the main question that we're going to have to address tonight, and hopefully with the insight of the Korach HaKadosh, we'll be able to see. But the Korach HaKadosh begins, and he starts from the very first pasuk, and he asks a few questions on these psukim. And he says, firstly, it says, Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kehas ben Levi. Korach took, who's Korach? Korach, the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kehas, the son of Levi, took Dasan and Aviram, b'nei Eliyav, the sons of Eliyav, On ben Pelas, b'nei Reuven, and On ben Pelas, the descendant of Reuven, and they vayakumu l'fnei Moshe, and they stood up in front of Moshe, va'anoshim b'nei Yisrael, they had 250 people, part of from Shevet Reuven, and these were very important and very official people. So now says the Korach HaKadosh, what does it mean Vayikach? Korach took something. What did he take? So Rashi says he took himself to one side of an argument, right? He took sides. That's essentially what the word Vayikach Korach means. The Korach HaKadosh says, I'm not so comfortable with that, and perhaps there's something else that can be understood from the word Vayikach. Now, he asks, why does it say Korach, the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kehas, the son of Levi? How many generations do we have to go back in order to address and understand who we're talking about? By simply saying Korach ben Yitzhar, we would have exactly known who Korach was. So why does it go back and say also this Yitzhar, the father, whose father was Kahas and whose father was Levi? And why do we go back? Perhaps we should go one more generation. The son Ben Levi, Ben Yaakov. Levi was the son of Yaakov Avinu. Why don't we go up to Yaakov? So that Rashi tells us the reason, Chazal teach us the reason why Yaakov's name is not mentioned here is because Yaakov davened. He said, I know Korach and his assembly are going to do something one day, and it's going to cause trouble for the Jewish nation. I don't want my name to be there. I don't want my name to be mentioned in that event. Don't put my kavod in this group. Don't let them know about me. Meaning, hide my name from that list. So therefore, because Yaakov was such a great person, and he davened that his name should not be mentioned here, so therefore, Korach, when we mention who Korach was related to, we don't go all the way back to Yaakov. But the obvious question, says the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, is, one second, it says, Ben Yitzhar, Ben Kehas, Ben Levi, these were great people in their own right. So Yaakov, because he was so great, he didn't want his name to be mentioned with Korach, who was the person who caused a lot of trouble. But Yitzhar, Kehas, and Levi, they want their name. They're okay with it. Why would we write any names? Why would these great people have the, so to speak, misfortune that they should be mentioned over here together with Korach? That is the question, that one question that Orach Chaim HaKadosh asks. And then he says, V'dasan va'avirim b'nei Aliyah. He wants to know who's Dasan and Avirim, what exactly are they doing? On Ben Pelas b'nei Reuven. These people were all from Reuven. Why was it that Reuven was the shevet that Korach went after to gather people together for his side of the party? What was significant about the people of Reuven that those were the people that went after him? Now Rashi says a very important concept. He says, Oy la Rasha, oy la Shchena. From here we see that woe is to the evil person and woe is to his neighbors. Meaning, a person himself might not be a bad person, but if we surround ourselves with people that are not so great, so then that's going to bring us down. And we have to be very careful of our surroundings because our surroundings have a tremendous, tremendous impact on us. This is why we have organizations like TAG, which is a technology awareness group, which tells us that we have to make sure that we have our devices, phones, computers, tablets, whatever they might be, they have to be filtered, because filtering a device from through the internet can be very, very without a filtered device can be very problematic. There's a terrible amount of things on that are accessible at one's fingertips that are not good for one's neshama, for one's soul, and we can be deeply, deeply influenced by these things, and therefore we have to be very careful for our surroundings. And since we have to be so careful for our surroundings, so we have an organization like TAG. You submit your computer, you submit your phone, within 5-10 minutes, everything is filtered and you can customize it to a degree. That way you should make sure that nothing inappropriate would come up for yourself, for your children, or for anybody for that matter. And that's just a safeguard that we have to protect ourselves. So we always have to have these safeguards in mind. And that includes not just the devices that we have, but even our neighbors. We have to be careful in the community that we live in and the people that we associate with. Those people have a tremendous, tremendous effect on us. And the more we associate with good people, the better we are. However, the more we associate with bad people, so then it's going to pull us down. So that's why you see the Shevet Ruvain, his Shevet was camped right next to where Levi was camped. And therefore, they were next to Korach and Yitzhar and Kaz, because Korach is clearly a Levi. And they were camping next to Reuven and Oyla Rasha, Oyla Shekhinah, because they had this neighbor, Korach, that was raising up these issues. They got sucked in, and their surroundings influenced them for the negative. So these are the questions. Some of the questions. That's what the standard understanding of these psukim are that we are taught as to why, as to what these little details mean. But the Orach Chaim HaKadosh takes an entirely different approach. The Orach Chaim HaKadosh says as follows. And we're not going to read it inside this time. We're going to just go through it outside, so make sure we get all the pieces. So he says, "Vayikach Korach." What Korach took wasn't that he took a side of an argument. Rather, he took certain things to support his argument. What were the things that he took to support his argument? Because again, the main question that we're going to answer tonight is, what in the world was Korach thinking? So says the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, these two psukim essentially are setting the stage for what was going through Korach's mind and why he would even imagine that he should be able to challenge Moshe and Aaron's position. So he says, Vayikach Korach. Korach took the following information under consideration. He said to himself, he says, firstly, I'm Ben Yitzhar. I'm the son of Yitzhar. So who's Yitzhar? There's Yitzhar is the son of Kehas. Okay, so now Kehas had 4 children. He had 4 kids. Kehas had Amram, Yitzhar, Hebron, and Uziel. So now the oldest son of Kehas was Amram. Amram was the father of Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. So in fact, and then the second son of Korach, of Kehas was Yitzhar, and Yitzhar's son was Korach. So in fact, Korach, Moshe, and Aaron were all cousins. They were all first cousins. Korach, Aaron, Moshe, Miriam, they were all first cousins. And Yitzhar was Korach's father, was Moshe's uncle. Amram was Korach's uncle, Moshe's father. So there's a very close family relationship here. So now what does that mean? So Korach says, okay, well, one second. I see that Yitzhar, I'm the son of Yitzhar. Yitzhar is the second born to Kehas. So maybe Moshe Rabbeinu went ahead and he went to the family tree and he said, let's see. We have my father was Amram, his father was Kehas, my grandfather is Kehas. Kehas had Amram, Yitzhar, Hebron, and Uziel, 4 kids. So I'm from Amram. Now, if there's anybody else, I should take him from Yitzhar. And then we should go to Hebron and then Uziel. Okay, so we should go on order of the oldest of the uncles to the youngest of the uncles and appoint people in that order. However, what happened? You see, Korach himself was not taken for anything. Amram had essentially 2 kids that had an appointment, Moshe and Aaron. Okay, maybe we can excuse that for a second. But then Yitzhar's sons didn't get anything. Hebron's sons didn't get anything. Who got something next was Uziel's son. Who was Uziel's son? Elitzaphan ben Uziel had a title of a Nasi. So Elitzaphan ben Uziel, since he had the title of a Nasi, so says Korach, whoa, wait a second. If you're going in the order of the family, so then I come before Uziel. Why is I come before Elitzaphan ben Uziel? Our other first cousin, Elitzaphan, is from the younger of the uncles. He's from the youngest of the uncles. So, the youngest of my father's brothers. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu skip over my father and skip over Hebron, and he jump right down to the bottom? So there's something wrong here. I come from Yitzhar. Yitzhar's the second in line. I should have a claim to something right now. So that's why it says Korach took the fact that he was Ben Yitzhar. And then he took the fact that he was Ben Kehas. What was special about the families of Kehas? Kehas, the thing that was special about the families of Kehas was the fact that they carried the Kodshei HaKadoshim, the holiest of holy items. They took the Aron, the Shulchan, the Menorah. They held and carried the most important things that the Mishkan held. The beams, the poles, the tent coverings, the curtains, all those items, other things were all carried by Gershon and Merari. Kehas, they didn't even get wagons to carry things on because their items had to be carried by hand. Bakosef Yisau, they had to be carried by the shoulder. So Korach said, well, my father's not just second in line, but I'm also the grandson of Kehas. I come from a very, very important lineage. They are the people that were the ones that carried the Aron on their hands. So these had to be the holiest of all the brothers. Levi had 3 sons, Gershon, Kehas, and Merari. Kehas was the one that was chosen to carry the holiest of items. Must be he's the holiest of all the 3 brothers. And I come from that. And therefore, I have another reason why I should be chosen for something. Then he says Ben Levi. Now, what does that mean that he's Ben Levi? So Korach took another factor under consideration. What was the other factor that he took under consideration? He said, look around. What shevet am I part of? I'm part of Shevet Levi. Everybody would agree that Shevet Levi is the holiest of all the Shvatim, of all the tribes. And because Shevet Levi is the holiest of all the tribes, I yet again have another thing in my favor why I should be chosen for something, why I should be given some sort of position. So all of these things were different reasons that Korach started to rationalize into his own head why he should be chosen for something. And all of these things were not just rationalizations in his own head. There were also things that he would convince other people to be part of. People would say, Korach, are you crazy? Why are you fighting against Moshe? Why are you fighting against Aaron? Who do you think you are? So Korach would say, no, let me explain to you. Moshe's a great guy. There's no question about it. Aaron's a great guy, but there's something off with the picture here. You know who I am? I come from Yitzhar. I come from Kehos. I'm from Shevet Levi. I have a lot of things going for me. And therefore, you got to let me come in. So now maybe we could say Korach was a very smart man. He says, you know what? Maybe what would happen is that people are going to say, well, they just went from the oldest to the youngest. I said, okay, you want to go from the oldest to the youngest, and that's how we look at how we do things? Well, firstly, let's remember the four brothers, Elitzaph and Ben, the four cousins, I'm sorry. We have Moshe and Aaron, we have Korach, and we have Elitzaph and Ben Uziel. So he says, Korach says, firstly, take a look at Elitzaph and Ben Uziel. He's not the oldest of the brothers. He shouldn't come first. He got something before I did. And not only that, says Korach, I have another group of people in the Jewish nation that also don't go based on the firstborn. What group of people is that? It's the Shevet of Reuven. Shevet Reuven was not chosen for anything. They do not have the Levi. They do not have the first the kingship. The kingship passed on to Yehuda. Reuven almost barely. All he has to a degree is just the firstborn rights. That's about it. But the fact that he's a firstborn didn't give him any rights to serve or have whole important positions more than anybody else. The fact that he was firstborn didn't give him rights to be king. He lost that. And therefore, Korach went ahead and he seeked out specifically, he recruited people from Bnei Reuven particularly, because he knew that if he could get people from Reuven on his side, he would be able to push away the claim that people might say, oh, yeah, maybe we just go based on the oldest. Look at Reuven. Reuven doesn't get anything, and therefore must be that we don't go based on the oldest. And therefore, what could Moshe Rabbeinu possibly be doing? It must be it's all coming from playing favorites, nepotism. He's caring for his brother instead of actually doing what's important for the Jewish nation. And therefore, these are all the things that set Korach up to have a successful campaign, so to speak, in order to fight against Moshe Rabbeinu. So the question that we started with is, why would Korach in the world think that he should be able to challenge? And the answer we're seeing is Korach was very thought out. There are a lot of things that he considered that would give him the opportunity to go ahead and believe that he deserved something. And therefore, he started up. Now, we know that at the end of the day, it was a mistake. His mistake was that he was lacking in that Vaya Aminu B'Hashem Uvim Moshe Avdo, that he was lacking in his trust of Moshe. And the same way that he was lacking in that trust, he therefore was able to rationalize and convince others to his own side. And because of that, he made a terrible, terrible mistake. So for the first piece, we're going to see another piece of the Orach Chaim HaKadosh in a moment. That's what's at the end of the parsha. But for the first piece, the lesson for us is very clear. The lesson is very clear. A person can have all sorts of rationalizations, all sorts of understandings as to why they think they should be doing something and why the leaders are making a mistake and so on. But we have to be very careful when we do such a thing, because making such rationalizations means that there's a fundamental lack of trust. And we have to realize that everything is being run by Hashem. And if we have a fundamental lack of trust that Hashem is running the world and nobody can harm us unduly, whatever we get is only because Hashem commanded it so then we would never be worried and therefore be concerned what other people might be or not be doing. The more we can realize and trust in Hashem that He's running the world, then we realize that everything is for the best and whatever's happening is for our own good. That's the first idea. The next idea we're going to go, it's still obviously related to these events, and we're going to go to the story, the part with the staff. Okay, and says Hashem, after Bnei Yisrael after Korach has been punished, and the fire pans that they brought were cleaned out and taken out, the gold was used as a tzipur lamizbeach, as a wrapping, a cover to the Mizbeach, as a commemoration that one should not be. There's a negative commandment that one may not be like Korach va'adasa, we may not be like Korach and his assembly. So now, Vayedaber Hashem Moshe, Hashem says to Moshe, saying, Daber el bnei Yisrael, kach me'itam mata lebeis of. Take from them one staff from each tribe. Me'ez kol nesiehem, from the leaders of each tribe, lebeis avosam, shnei masar matos, ish hashemot tichtav amateu, each person should write their name on their staff. The Eis Shema Aharon tichtav amate Levi, and the name of Aaron should be written on the staff of Levi. Kimata echad rosh beis avosam, there's going to be one staff for everybody. What should we do with these sticks? You put them in the Oel Moed. The one that I choose, his staff will go ahead and sprout. Vasikosi me alayis tlunos b'nei Yisrael asher he malinim aleichem, and I will silence the complaints that Bnei Yisrael are consistently complaining against them. So this is the staffs, and we know how Moshe Rabbeinu took the staffs and he put them in, and the only staff that sprouted was the staff of Aharon, and that was a sign that that Hashem had chosen Aharon. Now, why? The question is, the story's already over. The punishment, the Jewish people have witnessed a great miracle. The ground cracked open, and it was almost like a slide. The ground split open, and the plane of the land went into an angle, and Korach and his people slid in to that hole, and they got swallowed up, and the ground closed up again. This is a tremendous, tremendous miracle. It's such a great miracle that Chazal teach us, we're taught that the opening of the mouth was actually created during Bein Hashmashos of the 6 days of creation. Friday afternoon, before Hashem rested, so to speak, from all of his work, Hashem created the mouth of the land that would swallow up Korach. This was such a tremendous thing. It had to be set up in advance, part of creation, that it should be available and ready when it was necessary. So if that's the case, what exactly is the purpose of this miracle? Why did Hashem need to create this miracle that there should be a sign that the staff that sprouts would be clear, that would be the one chosen? We already see Korach was denied, he got punished, and therefore it must be that Aaron is the chosen Kohen Gadol. So says the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, he says no. Daber el b'nei Yisrael, you have to tell b'nei Yisrael kach me'itam. It has to be from them. It has to be their staff. Why? It has to coming from them. What do they call it? Just kach mata lebeis avosim. What is me'itam? Because they need to see something from themselves. Meaning, the people were able to rationalize. You know why such a great punishment happened to Korach? Because Korach was right in his claims. He had a good point. He just went about it all wrong. He just went up and started with Moshe Rabbeinu in all the wrong fashion. If he would have sat down, have a parlor meeting, have a conversation, maybe meet over coffee, and try and build it up that way, then he would have been right. But he jumped too far ahead, too fast. He made a mistake in his approach. But maybe it's true. Maybe Korach had some actual correct thoughts that Moshe Rabbeinu shouldn't have chosen Aaron or things like that. So therefore, Hashem says, Kach me'itam. It has to come from them. They have to see something else that not just shows that I defend the honor of Moshe Rabbeinu. Maybe the reason why Hashem opened up the ground to let it swallow Korach was to defend the honor of Moshe and Aaron, because they're righteous people, and don't start up with righteous people for no reason. But maybe there was a right claim, so now I have to show from them that there was no claims whatsoever, and Aaron HaKohen is absolutely 100% the chosen one. And therefore, what has to be done? You have to take a staff from them. Moshe Rabbeinu, for the same price, could have taken 12 sticks that he found in the streets. He could have taken 12 twigs, write everybody's name on it. He says, okay, I've got your sticks, guys. Each one has your name. I'm putting it in the Omeid. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, he pulls out, look, Aaron's stick has something in it. What would have happened? People would say, no, I don't trust that, Moshe. It was a scam. It was a play, our sticks were plastic and that one was the only wood one. Or, we took ours that were orange trees and this was an almond tree. Of course, that was the one that was going to sprout almonds. So therefore, Hashem said, Kach me'itam. It's got to be their staffs. And it has to be from each nasi, and there's going to be staffs. And normally we read the pasuk, he says, L'beis avosam shnei mosar matos ish es shemo tichtov al mateu. Each person wrote his name. The shem Aaron tichtov al matei Levi. Each person, Aaron will write his name on Levi's staff. Ki mata echad l'rosh beis avosam. There was one mata, the way, even the way it's translated in English, is that there's only going to be one staff for Aaron, for the head of his household. However, the Orach Chaim says, Kimata echad l'reish beis havosa means that after taking each Nasi's staff, each prince's staff, and writing their name on it, they took Aaron's staff. They took Aaron's staff and cut it into 12 pieces. And then they wrote all the names of the Nasiim on those 12 pieces. That way they should say, maybe Aaron's is more moist and he had a better staff. I said, no, he'll give you a piece that everybody should have a piece of the same piece of wood. And that way there will be no claims whatsoever. And it will be very, very clear that Aaron is the chosen one. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu goes ahead, he takes the things. And what happens is, Vayimi Mocharas, it was the next day, Vayavo Moshe al Oel Ha'edos, V'ine Parach Mate Aaron LeBeis Levi. And the staff of Aaron is the one that sprouted. And what came out? Vayotze Perach, Vayotze Tzitz, Vayigmal Shekedim. It sprouted blossoms. Flowers started to come out, and almonds started to grow. I think it takes 21 days for almonds to grow at the right time, and therefore, says Chazal, you know why almonds were chosen to be the thing that should grow? Because the same way almonds are the fastest of produce that grow so quickly, so too someone who challenges the kahuna, that the rights of Aaron to the kahuna, his punishment will also be swift in coming. And these are just some of the insights that the Korach tells us about this, and the idea that the Korach is conveying to us. The idea that the Korach is conveying to us is that we have to understand and realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to stand up not just for the honor of his chosen ones, but he's always going to prove through us, through our own things, that Hashem has chosen him and that he is the right one that is to be chosen. And therefore, it behooves us to be more patient and more careful, not just to assume things and to run through and think that Hashem is, things are just happening on their own. Well, let's just take a quick recap. So the things that we saw from the Korach HaKadosh, the beginning of the parasha, the first couple of psukim, are the reasons why Korach set himself up, his rationalizations and his claims that he would use to the rest of the nation to convince them why he had a good claim. The fact that he was Ben Yitzhar and Ben Levi, he was from Ben Kehas from the Shevet of Levi, from Kehas, who carried the holy items, and from Yitzhar, who was the older of the uncles after Amram. And he took Shevet Ruvain, the people of Shevet Ruvain, to show that we don't go based on oldest in these matters, and therefore he was able to convince himself and others that he had a claim to argue against Moshe and Aaron. And in the end, we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will do whatever it takes, number one, to defend the honor of the Jewish people, the honor of his great people of Moshe and Aaron, and similarly, he will show from within ourselves that he is the one running the show. And the lesson for us from these two ideas is to recognize that the more we can understand how Hashem runs the world, and that he is the one in charge, anything that is happening around us, we know is going to ultimately be for the best of us. We don't just sit around, obviously, but we also have to realize that whatever is happening is not just for nothing, and Hashem is the one who is in charge of it all. Thank you so much for coming. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer. Thank you, Rustin. Thank you for coming. Okay, everybody have a wonderful Shabbos. We'll see you, Mitzvah Hashem, next week. Be well.
Thank you, Rabbi Yasher Koach.
Thank you, Yashko.
Inspiring. Good. All right.
Bye-bye.